Welcome into USL Live and to the Season 21 recap show. My name is Romulocks, and I am joined today by two seasoned veterans of the game, Mecca
Hola.
and Eric.
¿Cómo está?
And we are here to talk about Season 21, what happened a little bit of a summary. Following that, we're going to discuss kind of who were the most valuable players for each team this week, and kind of talk about maybe a little bit about what's coming up in Season 22 and what we can expect there. But I'm going to let Mecca take the lead and set the agenda for what we're going to talk about today.
All right, yeah. So first thing we're gonna do is just kind of recap what happened during the season, and then we're gonna talk about kind of MVPs of each squad. So I'll start out with what happened in the season. Thugs, Lowlife Thugs, captained by Nosekeeper, ended up beating Deadweight for the champ. We saw Deadweight beat One Love and Thugs beat FUP to advance to the finals, and then we also had Hellcats on the season. They were the fifth place squad. Fortunately, they didn't make the playoffs because we wanted to keep it a round number at 4. But let's get right into the kind of the squad ratings and who impressed us, who let us down, all that. I'm going to start, Eric. Let's start with FUP just because they're at the top of my list. I had the MVP of FUP at as ER, and here's why. After ER faded and kind of bounced out of FUP, the squad was markedly different. When ER was SBing with them, they were getting wins against you. They were getting wins against us every once in a while. They looked dangerous. ER is obviously an amazing Marine. So for me, he was the MVP of the season just because of the change that happened after he left. Who did you have?
I actually had Kevin as the MVP, strictly speaking, because of leading and, yeah, we can claim that the vision bugs were lame or whatever, but it was a fair tactic. So I know Octavian is the one that found all those and pointed it out to him. But leading and getting the most kills and still dealing with all the inner workings of the squad drama, I think he did pretty well.
Absolutely.
Raver's been in this game for, I don't know, 25, 26 seasons. He is a seasoned vet. He absolutely he brings his game all the time when he's on the field. It doesn't matter if he's a big contributor or a little contributor. He's always doing the right things. And unless he's playing some fantasy USL, in which case he might intentionally throw. But it doesn't surprise me at all that he came alive for FUP when he was in.
Okay, so let's go on to the biggest letdown, which already have some drama in this episode. My biggest letdown was actually Kevin. And this wasn't planned. I honestly didn't know. The reason I say Kevin is because kind of the opposite of Raver, right? When Raver was there, they were super competitive. When he left, they weren't. When Kevin was playing well, especially when he was playing AT on some of the closer maps earlier in the season, FUP was humming. They were playing well. They beat us on EC with Kevin as AT. He was getting in. He was getting tons of kills. I mean, he dropped almost 40 twice on Hellcats as AT. And then once ER left, I think Kevin had 2 or 3 straight games where he went like 3-12. I think he had a 1-14, something like that. I know he's leading, but you can't go that negative on a squad and expect to win. So,
what do you think the difference was between was it just Raver, or is there more to that?
Raver and infighting would be my guess. You had Split versus Iceman, SV versus Uni, which was not nearly as big, but Backs just kind of telling everybody they're bitches to push and everything, So probably just a combination of all that, and then the open maps definitely had played into it as well. You can't play AT in open maps, and I think FUP's Marine lineup was weaker than the other squads, so they kind of got exposed. And I think Kevin's leading got a little bit exposed as well. When you can't kind of sneak around or like camp on Apollos or camp on EC or anything.
That's fair. So we are legit opposites right now because my biggest letdown was Raver. Strictly because I get real life happens, but because he left, as you already pointed out, like the squad was drastically different. And you pointed out that Raver's a great Marine. I know him and Kevin were bouncing back and forth between AT, between the two of them at the beginning of the season. And the reason I don't think it worked out, and the only reason Kevin kept playing AT against only Hellcats, is because against the top squads, you need to have good Marines around you for the AT to actually work. and get those solo angles, etc. Otherwise, it's going to be useless. And again, it's a pushing class, right? So you're getting that flank. If you're not doing that, if you're going to sit around and kind of camp, ambush, and whatnot, AT is kind of useless. So, again, biggest letdown for me is Raver. Once again, I understand real life happens, but disappearing, as you said, drastically changed essentially the outcome of the season for them, because they were fighting for second seed and they dropped down to fourth.
Kind of the similar ideas of what we had, but different definitions of the awards there. And then let's go to most improved. This is going to be controversial, but I'm honestly going to say Backs, and here's why. Sniper.
Let's go!
Sniper was nerfed justifiably. It was too OP, and not just because it was Backs playing it. It was just a stupid class for USL. But I think I think Backs kind of came into his own towards the end of the season as LMG Marine. I think he played a good Ripper too. Marine probably definitely not his strongest, but you see him LMG, and I think he's going to play LMG into the next season. That and a lot of the other people were kind of already established on that squad, so it was a harder pick. Because I think some of the people who could have improved actually got significantly worse on the squad. But I think Bax as LMG, Bax as Ripper kind of has a future in this league as a solid player.
Yeah. For once, we agree on one. My pick was Bax, and even in my preseason ratings for season 21, I said he was a very serviceable LMG. He was an LMG on Purple Cobras in the playoffs and did fine. So, I mean, if he sticks to LMG, he's not fighting for like the class over Splitta or anything like that. I think it's very possible that, you know, he can reach that kill threshold, right, for at least the award, and it'll be more. He'll contribute more to the squad, and seeing him Ripper this past season, he didn't really get a lot of kills, but at least looking back on the Apollos map, he stopped us from pushing.
Yep.
It was his streams. Like, I want to say, if I remember the play correctly, Yosh, me, Nas, and somebody else, one of the medics, were pushing down from north after I think I lawed Iceman in the face, and his Ripper stream stopped us from pushing. So I get that Ripper's not good when you have to push. That's why they kept making him change. But overall, he was definitely the most improved player for them.
Absolutely.
That covers. No, that covers FUP. My issue is that I didn't see a lot of this. I only saw the playoffs, and I don't want to weigh in on things I didn't see. But what I did see from FUP at the end, I totally agree with you. There's a lot of intangibles in this game that don't get taken into the account in the score line. And what you're talking about with backs, with like covering fire as your team is retreating, those kind of things are invaluable, and they don't make it to the score sheet. So absolutely, if you see a younger player or a newer, a relatively unknown player doing those kinds of things, that's ideal. That is a most improved kind of quality. But that covers FUP. Let's skip to Lowlife Thugs next, and again talk about the MVP, biggest letdown, and most improved. But let's start with the MVP.
Okay. Yeah, actually, Thugs was next on my list anyway, so perfect. My MVP in when I actually casted the awards was Eric, and here's why. I came up with this very complicated formula called the Mecca score. Basically weighs in everything: your kill points, your assist points, basically how you affected the game in total, and takes out your deaths. So Eric finished like number 2 in that, next to Ernie, and then he finished number 2 or 3 in support below TG. So I thought overall, I think Eric was MVP. His AT early in the season was undeniable. He was getting vision, allows Sov to just focus on leading. He doesn't have to solo. And Eric's up north getting vision, Eric's down south getting vision. It just, the way he used AT was very good, and it gave them just so much more information to work with. So and then obviously he got a bunch of kills as well, which is kind of secondary at this point. But that's why Eric was my MVP.
Well, thank you. My MVP, this is going to be kind of a cop-out because I couldn't really choose between the two. It's a tie between Sov and Iron. Obviously, Sovin is leading, and then Iron is just undeniably the best medic in the league. There have been so many times, and I was even looking back at the championship match against K's crew too, how he kept you and me alive in those last seconds to get our respawn back, to clip that up and clutch that win. It's just testament, and he just brought that forward into this last season as well. Gets kills as med, keeps his team alive. There's nothing more you can ask for. And then again, Sovin is leading. He's best leader in the game. Can't really.
So for you, it's a family dynamic kind of thing. Saab's been at the game. We all know Saab. What does Iron have, if anything, Eric, that Saab doesn't have?
Ooh, a sense of humor.
Nice personality, yeah, exactly.
I think that answers it. I don't need to go any further. Let's skip to biggest letdown. Who was the biggest letdown for Thugs, if there was one this season, Mecca?
So I'm thinking a little bit outside the box here. I'm going to say Wu-Tang, for reasons Eric's explained in the past. They gave him a shot. They recruited him. As soon as he joined the squad, he disappeared forever. Wu-Tang could have been playing in games versus Hellcats, some of the later games versus FUP maybe. Like, he could have got a bunch of experience in there. But as soon as they recruited him, they left, because I couldn't really find the biggest letdown on the actual squad, because I think everybody else kind of improved. So I'm going to say Wu-Tang for ditching out on a really good experience having USL.
You're so right. I can't even imagine getting accepted as like a freebie to a squad like the Alliance and not even showing up.
Right.
Like, that'd be some quality learning time that you can take with you if you ever want to play again. But yeah, Eric, what about you?
So this is another one that's kind of a toss up for me, and I'll start with Sam Ninja.
Oh, yeah.
So he didn't show at all. He's by far one of the best Marines in the game when he's active and he's playing, but he had some real life stuff, right? He bought a new house, was doing renovations, and again, it's like 2-3 a.m. for him. So I'm not holding it like too much against him. I get it. The other one is Mike C. Ghost. Another one that, was asking Nas to accept him so he could get a ring, etc. Somebody who has been around the league for a while and could have taken, as Mecca said with Wu-Tang, taken the opportunity to kind of learn from us and play with us and kind of get a feel for how the game should be played, and just didn't take it. Like, he just disappeared until like the last 2 weeks of the season, and it was just like, you show up now, but I'm sorry, dude, you're not going to play.
Yeah, I just saw him in pubs just the other night. Ghost, man, this is a message to you, brother. We'd love to have you around, but you got to learn from the best. You got to be there to learn from the best. Well, no, we got one more. Most improved. Who is the most improved for Thugs for you, Mecca?
This is another tough one. I'm gonna say Pister, because I think in seasons past, when Pister was playing Marine versus a good squad, I thought he was a liability. This season, I think he didn't play perfect in every one of his games. And he didn't even play good in some of the games against playoff squads. But there was a couple games that he definitely held his own. He kind of held off solo flanks. Like, Sav would say, hey, Pister, go watch South choke. He might have said that because he knows that Pister can't push or something like that. But Pister still held the South choke, so he did his job. And he beat out Revenge for that, 6th spot until, Champ and Nos signed on at the same time. So I think Pister has to be my most improved player.
Eric, how about you?
Yep, I agree with you. Yeah. Pister is also my most improved player. Initially, when Sav and I were talking who should get that 8th roster spot, with Chris really only showing for playoffs, I initially went with Revenge, and then we kind of went back and forth on it a little bit and watched some of the earlier game tapes, like the match against you guys, and we're like, you know what, we gotta give Pister a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And he took it and ran with it. He, like you said, he did exactly what Sav asked. He was very vocal, and the main difference between him and Revenge is the fact that Pister's played USL longer, SK longer than Revenge, and he knows how. I'm pretty sure he led Infinity, which was a squad back in SOE with like ESO and some of the core from like old SFO.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows what angles to get. He already knew that. So that was something that just kind of set him ahead of revenge. And he just, again, ran with it this season, or this last season.
Yep, totally agree.
Absolutely. I was just looking at some of his scores, like even against the tough games, like against like One Love in week 3, he's putting up scores like 7 kills, 5 deaths. Like he's not hurting you in any of the close games. Or what I guess close for you guys is a relative term. But yeah, he never really hurt you. He was always in the game, which is that's to be lauded, especially if you're just walking in to some of the tougher matches there. Let's go ahead to Deadweight. So now we've gone from Eric talking about his own squad to Jordan talking about his. Who's the MVP for you this season, Jordan, from your squad?
I hate to do a tie, but I'm going to do it anyways, and this will be my only tie.
Yeah, that's a cop-out.
It's my only cop-out of the whole thing. Out of the 15 awards I'll give out, I'm going to say Ernie and Fausto tie. Ernie, deadliest player, deadliest Marine 2 years in a row. You know, Deadweight kind of goes as Ernie goes. Whether he's playing AT or Marine, freeing him up to solo is he can do it with the best of them. He can kill anybody in the game one-on-one. Everybody knows about Ernie. Fausto, because if you look at week 1, when we just got absolutely embarrassed by Thugs and One Love, compared to our games against One Love and Thugs later in the year, we played Thugs pretty well the second game. We beat One Love the second game with Fausto leading. It frees me up to actually play my game and not have to lead and worry about all that kind of shit. So I'm going to go with a combination of Ernie and Fausto.
Eric, how about you?
My pick was definitely Fausto, just because he changed the whole dynamic of the squad. Once he stepped in and started leading you guys, his leading against FUP showed me that he was that was his first week back, and you guys pushed when you guys were up. You guys could have just won that and actually probably gotten second seed had you guys won that, right? So he was a little rusty, but as the season progressed, he went back to true form. And honestly, I thought he was probably your guys' best player in the champ match too. So Fausto, without a doubt, Deadweight's MVP.
People forget Fausto's an actual decent Marine too, just because he's led so long and his scores aren't always the best. But he's actually a really good Marine too. Like he kind of made his career off leading, but also holding chokes one-on-one. Like he's really hard to kill. He's a really good dodger. One of the only 5 keyboarders left, and he can still really dodge.
Yep.
I think Rom's having some connection issues, so let's jump down to the biggest letdown for Deadweight. And there's a common theme here. I'm going to say Katana. When I recruited Cat, I've known Cat since NML in 2001. I've been friends with that guy forever. And he had some personal issues, so I don't blame him for this. I just kind of had to come up with an answer. But when I recruited him, I legitimately said, "Hey, you can get into some games. You can even start for us." He would have been a fine, 5th or 6th Marine. We even kicked him to make room for Sabo and Fausto, and then Torch left, so we brought him back. So I actually recruited him twice, and he just never. Like I said, he had a reason for not showing. I'm not going to go into personal reasons, but just had to pick a player, and I think he would him or Bowen. But I would lean more towards Katana since I expected some things out of Katana.
That's fair. My pick for you guys is actually Ghost Bomber. He had the opportunity to kind of get that 8th spot and just kind of fell to the wayside. I think he got actually no. I'm backtracking. Havoc. Oh. After Havoc's week 1 performance, dude didn't log on.
Yeah. He logged on to watch our games.
Yep. He's definitely better than what his week 1 showed. I think, again, that was a combination of WoW and not knowing Kaiser's Pass. Mm-hmm. But after that, he just stuck to WoW and didn't show up, because at that point, he could have easily stayed in your 8th slot once Fausto got there, and you guys would have been fine.
Mm-hmm. No, I didn't even think about Havoc for biggest letdown, but he actually probably should be mine as well for that very reason. Because he was actually one of I think he was the 2nd guy, 3rd guy I recruited, maybe 4th guy I recruited, and I was really excited for his positional adaptability because he could play Marine or Med depending on what we ended up recruiting or who didn't show that week. So I think you're actually right. I think Havoc was more of an LVP there.
I've got a better connection now. Not to call it out too much, but did I read correctly? 2-14 in the opening week.
Yeah.
That's rough, Havoc. Love you, buddy, but that's rough.
Yeah, and I think he knew too, so like I don't want to rag on him too much, but he'll have a better season this upcoming season.
Well, he definitely would have improved. It was probably just, as you said, just map shock a little bit, and he definitely would have improved over the season. You got to tough out some of those brutal games, dude. You're just going to have them. Who is the most improved for each of you, Mecca?
I'm gonna go with Brill. And Brill's always been a decent player, but just even over the season from when we first got Brill to his last couple games, especially in the regular season. I haven't watched the champ game back yet, so I don't know how he played in champ game, but I know versus FUP the second match and versus One Love the second match of the season, he played really well. And we were kind of up in the air on who's going to be our sixth Marine behind all of us. Is it going to be Tyrael nading and ripping, or is it going to be somebody else? And then Burl had a couple of really good weeks, especially the one against FUP. I think he started the game 11-0 or something. Had a couple lost snipes. He was just playing out of his mind. So my most improved, even though he's been around for a while and been a good player forever, is going to be Brill Hart.
Absolutely. Eric, what about you?
I also have Brill, but I'll give an honorable shout out to Sabotage, because like Fausto, he came back a little late and got progressively better as the season went on, but definitely goes to Brill Hart. As Mecca said, the last stretch of the season, Brill Hart played as quite possibly the best Marine on that squad, minus Ernie, and really helped push Deadweight into the third seed.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you want your fifth and sixth Marines just to not be liabilities. You want them to be somebody consistent who's going to show up and do well. But it's even better when your fifth or maybe even sixth Marine is an asset. And Brill he went from not a liability, he became an asset at the end. And then when you've got five guys humming, that's all you need. That's what you need to play well.
Yep. One of the key reasons we went from that week one fiasco to champ games was Brill Hart. So
next up, we are switching gears to One Love. Start with MVP again. Jordan, go ahead.
I'm gonna say One Love MVP was colossal. I think they had a couple really good players this year. I think Kago, when he showed up, was absolutely dominant, but he didn't show up a lot. Jeff was there every week, and I think Jeff had a really good game against us in the semis. Like he almost willed them to beat us. Like they had a chance to beat us because of Jeff playing top of his game, which is also why I recruited him for this season. But yeah, I think Jeff is kind of the runaway there. If Kaga played more, it might be him, but I think Jeff was my winner there.
Sure.
I'll actually change it up a little bit. I'll say it's Dave. Looking at and reffing and announcing your guys' game, Dave played out of his mind. Aside from like one bad death, and then obviously that last call to go around right kind of choked that.
His streams were on point. You're right.
Yeah. Well, aside from his 1v1 versus Ernie when Ernie was low and he choked that too. But for the most part, Dave obviously kept that squad together. He didn't really indulge in any drama. And he led their team in kills. So
yeah,
I gotta give it to Dave.
Well, yeah. Well done, Dave. Good season. Moving on to biggest letdown in One Love, and I don't know where you start with this, Jordan, but where are you going?
I have a pretty clear one. It's going to be Saul. I mean, Saul's going to Saul. He just doesn't show. But I think if he showed the whole season, he showed a couple. I think he showed versus us, of course, because he always shows against me. We beat him down, but it's okay. But he just if he shows, if he's there for playoffs, they have a good chance to beat us, and then they have a good chance against thugs after that. So I don't know if Dave was relying on him, but I don't think Dave wanted to start Mercy at Marine in a playoff game. I don't think Tyson's a bad Marine. I thought he played pretty well, but he's naturally a medic. So, but because Saul doesn't show, it just kind of ruins your game plan. So I
Yeah.
think they probably expected him not to show, but still, you can show for at least semis.
But then again, when you recruit a guy like Trizens or Soul, that's your number one Marine slot. Like that like you expect that guy to be there a few times in the season, and when they're not there, you're right. It's like, I would, that's a valuable spot that maybe could have gone to somebody else. But
yeah, even if Saul fills the champ role, like doesn't shows like 2-3 games and then plays playoffs. That's all you need from Saul. Get him in the playoffs, 1 or 2 regular season games. But couldn't do that. So,
Eric, what do you think?
So this is another kind of cop out, but I went with Kaga and Soul, because again, Kaga only showed 2, I think, the FUP game on Apollo's map and lit it up as LMG. If he shows in playoffs and Soul show in playoffs, I think One Love won that.
Yeah, that would be a totally different game.
Because as Mecca was saying, like Jeff almost willed them to a victory, and it came down to that last battle. So if Kaga and Soul were there, you replace Tyson and Torch with those 2, it's a different ball game. Go ahead.
That puts Pandy down at your 3rd or maybe 4th Marine. That's where he would want to play.
I mean, Kaga guarantee, granted Deadweight was a lot different squad, but Kaga in week 1 went 21-8 against us as LMG. So.
Yep. But yeah, those are my 2 biggest letdowns for them.
All right. Skip to most improved, Mecca.
Yeah, so most improved, I actually had Dave. For much of the reasons Eric gave MVP to Dave, I gave most improved. I don't think Dave's ever been a bad Marine, but I think that Dave switching to AT earlier in the season, not so much the end, but earlier in the season, and leading his team in kills and leading. I mean, he had a pretty good Mecca score as well. Like he, at one point, like 3/4 of the way through the season, he was right there with Eric and Ernie in kills versus playoff squads, and just kind of all the good metrics. So I think Dave coming out leading, and then also playing probably his best season he's had. I think that's why I had to give him most improved. Just from his normal baseline to being a top killer, you don't normally see that out of Dave.
Mm-hmm. Eric?
Yeah. So my most improved was actually Danny. I know Danny's been around for a while, but he was like maybe 3rd on their list for kills behind Jeff and Dave with 73. And I feel like he played relatively consistent for the most part. He didn't really have the best scores against playoff squads, but he didn't need to stand out. He was doing, for the most part, all the right things you would expect from a seasoned Marine, and just kind of did them well. So I give it to Danny.
Yeah, Danny was my second option there. He did pretty well in assists too. He first 5 or 6 games, he was like number 3, I think, in support award rankings for me. So Danny definitely deserves a shout out there for me too.
Looking at it, he put in pretty valiant efforts against the tough squads. Looking at the Lowlife Thugs game from, I think, what is this, week 2 or something like that. Yeah, he's put up 6 and 8, and everybody else is beneath that. Put it that way.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's see here. Moving on. Let's go to Hellcats. Starting with MVP.
Yeah, my MVP is going to be Septicemia. He led. I mean, it's the reason he won the Cave Beast Award, right? He led the squad. He had the most kills. Kind of simple in my eyes. I don't think there's anybody else really vying for that.
Was Septicemia just putting himself in the right positions, or what was he doing that the rest of his team wasn't doing that maybe they should emulate?
That he was putting himself in the right positions. Also, he was AT, so he was always out ahead, and he could escape easier. So
he was sober.
Also sober, which is an issue on Hellcats. But being able to dash in, dash out, and lead, and kind of knowing where the fight's going to be definitely gives you an advantage. Especially when you're on a lower squad, it's a little bit easier, I think, to lead on a lower squad because you can kind of serve yourself.
Yeah,
a lot more and not have to worry about it. So I think that's why.
I think I know where Eric's going. So let me ask this question to Eric, and then maybe I'll have a follow up with Eric too.
Yeah. So my MVP was Septicemia. It was the obvious and really the only choice. As Mecca said, he won the Cave Beast. He led them. I don't know how he dealt with leading that, but he did for the full season. And he put up the most kills on the squad. and just really tried. And, you know, I sat in a few times and listened to him lead. I mentioned this on one of the week previews, but he's over there trying not to tilt. There was some condescending criticism, but for the most part, he was trying to give constructive criticism and to try and teach these guys what they should be doing. So I definitely give MVP to Septicemia for Hellcats.
In the prediction show last week, you were talking about Septicemia, and you said you thought that maybe he might be one to have a spin-off squad to make his own thing with guys that are mostly sober, but at least with some maybe some guys that are looking to take some wins next season. But my question to you would be, if he's doing this AT role, doesn't that kind of put him as like an outlier because nobody else can move like the AT? So is he going to be able to replicate that with another squad? Can he play Marine? What do you think what's in his toolkit this season for 22?
So my biggest thing, and I think this was kind of part of the problem when he was leading on Hellcats, is because he was AT. He, as Mecca kind of pointed out, he was kind of playing for himself at times and really just using the dash to get far ahead. And then he would call them out saying, hey, you know, why aren't you with me? Well, it's like, dude, you dashed 2 times and you have quicker inherent move speed. So yeah, I'm not going to get to you.
Mm-hmm.
So if it all depends on who he gets, if he does even make a squad, unless he gets sniped by us or another team possibly. But like if he Marines, I think it's a little bit better. I don't think he puts up the same kills he did as AT, but you know, it just really depends on who he gets. If he makes a squad, I expect Baza and like Raekwon to join him, kind of like that Aussie crew, as I mentioned in a preview in the past.
Yeah.
And, you know, if he gets those guys, he should be Marine. If he's not going to lead, I mean,
do you see him on the same trajectory as like a nose keeper, like a guy that was, you know, on lower tier squads for quite a while and then all of a sudden starts taking off because we see he's got talent?
I wouldn't put him in the same realm as Noskeeper, but I would say he's got the proper trajectory to be along those like mid tier, you know, positive ratio, not this 51 and 89, but putting up solid kills and being in the right position.
Okay. Well, let's go next up to biggest letdown for Hellcats. Jordan.
There's a few I could have named here.
It can't be a tie on this one. You can't
I'm
let
not
you
gonna do a
it.
tie. I'm gonna do kind of a theme I've done kind of all night. I'm gonna go Cannibal, aka Mark the Great. He was always an okay player back in the day, and I think he could have added a lot to them, especially through the meta category. He has meted on some lower mid-tier squads before, and I think he did fine. I don't think he was really exposed. I think he's a decent player. I think he would have stood out on Hellcats as a good player. But after he joined, I don't think he showed up once. I don't think he has speed. I don't even know if he has Infantry downloaded. Besides Zombie Zone, if that's even up anymore. So I was just looking through a couple people, and I think that's kind of where I ended up, was just because I think he could have made a slight difference on Hellcats.
Yeah, and all a lower tier squad, all they need is a little bit of leadership and guidance, and it's amazing what they can do in a season. I mean, they may not win games, but if they make it competitive, it's fun for them and it's fun for the team they're playing.
100%.
Eric?
Yeah, my biggest letdown was Goblin, for pretty much the same reason. Only the fact that Goblin actually still played pub and whatnot, and he probably left the squad 5 times
at least. Maybe
so
6.
I mean, you start him over jokers, and you have some coherent thought, and it makes it so much easier for somebody like Septicemia to lead.
Yeah. Finally, most improved for Hellcats.
Yeah, my most improved was Baza 7. I think throughout the season, I mean, yes, he lags, and I understand that, but if you don't pay attention to that, I think he had good positioning. I think his streams improved. You could see him moving around the map. He was doing exactly what Septicemia wanted him to do. I think he has a future on a mid-tier squad. If he's probably going to get lag checked, but skill-wise, I think he has a future on a lower mid-tier squad. Like I could see him joining if Septicemia makes a squad, or like if Bax makes a squad, I could see him sliding in as a 6th Marine or something like that, or a spot starter somewhere in there in the future if he just keeps playing.
Eric?
I went with Ryan B. He definitely looked a little bit better than last season, and he's got good streams. I think he just needs the right people around him to teach his positioning. And again, it's going back to that whole squad dynamic of Hellcats. It's not the best situation to be in for newer players to learn. To get playtime, absolutely 100%. But to really learn and how to play, and with all that was going on, he was still doing exactly like what Mecca said with Baza, listening to what Septicemia was saying and being in the right position to help focus fire. I think actually he's probably why Septicemia got as many kills as he did, because I'm pretty sure Ryan B was LMG most of the time and he was just gunning people down and Septicemia was cleaning them up. So that's my pick.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of promise in the kids that are playing for Hellcats. We see a lot of people who could get better if they just dedicate themselves and play under have some good leadership to show them how to do it. And we were talking earlier about how there's a lot of guys on the free agent list that there's still a lot of squads that could form right now with a lot of promise for next season. There's a lot of good players on that list. And I do want to kind of preview season 22 a little bit and what we're looking at in terms of changes, into what we're looking at in terms of maps, and who better to do that than Eric, our resident league administrator. So I'm going to turn it over to Eric. Eric, talk to us about the changes we're going to see for season 22. Anything you have concrete right now that we're going to do, and then talk about like what we're working on and what we're hoping to achieve if possible.
Yeah, so right now, Fausto and I pretty much set up not a time, but a day. So Thursday, him and I are going to go through the rules and really comb over them, try and simplify them a bit. I've already kind of looked at it, and to me, a lot of it is just cleaning up some of the redundancy that was like edited in and just kind of repeated the same thing or contradicted some of the stuff. So going through the rules and fixing those. The thing I have concrete right now, and Chris already agreed to, so there's no more waiver time when you join a squad. Once the season's active, I know it says it right now, as we're forming squads in the preseason, but as of right now, once you leave a squad, you cannot accept an invite or anything, or even when you get kicked, because we thought of, people might abuse this, kind of like watching Bax kick Octavian several times throughout the season to avoid that timer. So if you leave a squad, if you get kicked, that initial 8-day waiver period that you see on your roster now is going to kick into effect. That way, when you see all these people that, didn't necessarily come back to when the season start, but they want to play and they join a squad, they're not going to be an NT anymore.
No penalty for new players is the goal.
No penalty for new players. So that's what I have set in stone right now. As for class changes, I know Bax has bugged me about Sniper, and I will say that the min range is kind of garbage. So I do look to plan to at least set that. There's still going to be min range, but it's not like, I think right now the min range is set to like after the PDW ends.
Yeah.
Right. So that's pretty bad. So I think the plan is to make it so kind of like SG min range, but a little bit longer than that. So if you look at your aiming tick, that's kind of the min range that I'm looking at. For AT, I'm in a toss up right now. Do I want to increase the load timer on the dash to 30 seconds so that you either use it to get into the battle or you hold it to get out? There's no in between. Because I abused the shit out of this class.
The playoffs absolutely had a lot of AT movement that was kind of pivotal.
Yeah. So it's either that or we reduce the boost, like the distance of the boost. So I'm gonna get some options, or I'm gonna get some thoughts from other people. I'll probably pull that one.
Maybe see a poll, yeah.
I'll probably pull that one. The sniper one, I don't think needs to be pulled. I think that's just kind of something that needs to be fixed, and I know Bax agrees with that. The only other class change that I'm considering is demolition, the RPG outer damage. The inner damage is fine. That's great. It feels good when you hit somebody dead on. Outer damage, not so much, and it kind of, it's not as rewarding, obviously. But I feel like the outer damage should be bumped up a little bit. Not entirely like to match the inner, but at least like maybe 3 to 5 damage more on outer hits, and it should be fine. Other than that, we're gonna look at some of the maps. Did you have something?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say maybe Nader. Take a look at Nader as well. I think
You mean bumping up damage, or
yeah, I think you have to. I mean, it just feels bad to hit somebody in the head
and not kill
you can
them.
hit a medic in the head with 0 energy and they run away.
I saw that in the SBs last night, and I said to myself, that guy should be dead. In any previous season I played, he would be dead. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at it. We can pull on that one too, because again, I don't know how people feel about it. You're the first person to bring up Nader to me. It was kind of an afterthought in my mind, just because it hasn't been really utilized much.
But I think that's why,
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, absolutely.
If we're going to help out players like poor Nuno down there.
I was just about to mention him. Yeah.
Imperial loves the nade too. You have a couple people that play at least, so it might be worth a look.
Yeah, and other than that, it's looking at maps. I want to see, how Urban Decay fleshes out as a map as people squad battle on it. Other than that, combing through vision bugs as we saw during the playoffs, trying to fix those. And that's even if we go with a map rotation this season. There's going to be a pull on that. Do we stick to one map, or do we do what we did this last season and go with a weekly rotation? So those are kind of the thoughts on my mind. Again, with people kind of wanting a shorter off season, I'm not going to try and overload what I want to do, and any settings, etc., like that are going to be very minimalistic changes.
Gotcha. So a lot of stuff in the works, not a lot set in stone yet, a lot still to be considered and maybe voted on by the community. In terms of schedule for next season, and anything in between, do we have anything there yet?
I got to see how many squads form. If it's 5 again, we'll do the same thing like we did last season. I mean, either way, one thing set in stone, I will say, is every squad's going to play each other twice. So that's going to be a constant. Whether or not we have 4 squads or 5 squads will determine, obviously, do people play twice in a week like we had to do with 5, or do they only have 1 match a week? So that's really it with the schedule. I mean, obviously, only right now I see my squad, Mecca squad, Bax is making his. That's 3. Hellcats 4. So does Dave come back, or is Dave done? That's kind of what I'm waiting to see.
Yeah, man. Yeah, maybe BB's lurking.
And we're talking about some SBs on the weekends, some encouraging of that, I think, still. There's an all-star game. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, sure. So actually, Septicemi is the one that kind of requested it, and I thought it was a good idea because obviously SL actually had like divisions and whatnot, so it was kind of easier to
split the teams.
Split the team. So what I did was, my format was team 1 was going to consist of the championship team and 4th seed. And then team 2 was going to consist of the runner-ups and the 3rd seed, kind of making it balanced. And then because we have 5 squads, 4 players from Hellcats, so 2 is going to go on team 1, 2 are going to go on team 2. I figured that was kind of the best way to balance it.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be 10v10, 3 meds allowed, standard rules, like one support class, or 1 each. God damn it, I can't talk. 1 person can only play AT, 1 of each support class. There we go. Words.
Okay.
You got it.
Yeah. But it's going to be a best of 3. And they're only going to be 20-minute matches. It's going to start at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Sounds fun. Yeah.
I mean, it should be a good time. I don't think anybody's going to take it serious. We're just going to probably use this Discord and, split off between whatever channels, and we'll go from there.
Sounds like that is this.
That, by the way, Rom, if you want to join me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So we're talking about this Sunday, and the first game starts again at what time?
First game starts at 10.
10. Okay, and from there should be an hour of games. So we'd love everybody to join us for that. If you just want to hang out with the community, talk about what's coming up for season 22, all of that. Jordan, do you have anything else tapped on the schedule we need to cover tonight?
I don't believe so. I think the one thing that we didn't touch was Pleasant Valley. I know we kind of talked about it in the pre-show, if you will, but it might be worth a test. I just don't think that Pleasant Valley is a USL map. More than willing to test Urban Decay, because I think it offers some interesting plays, but I don't think Pleasant Valley is very good. I remember the last season it was up. I think the league faded like halfway through. Like just nobody wanted SB on it. So that would be my 2 cents if we're even considering it.
Yeah, from my recall or my memory, Pleasant Valley just had that one building in the middle, and the rest of it was kind of some scattered rock formations, both north and south, and then a bunch of barricades. So there's some tweaking that needs to be done to it if we want to kind of consider it. I don't mind it because it's an open map, and I prefer open maps to closed-in stuff. But I'm also kind of excited to see what dynamic Urban Decay can bring. But again, we just got to see the scrims on it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all right. I think that'll do it for all of us here tonight. First of all, I want to, again, congratulate Lowlife Thugs before we get out here on a well-played season, well-played playoffs. Another one in the books for Sav. And we'll be coming back for season 22 in no time. Again, come join us this weekend if you want to play with us. And we'd be happy to have any new players, coach them up. This has been the USL Season 21 recap show featuring Jordan and Eric. Thank you both. I'm Romulocks, and we will see you next season.
Have a good one.